Hello there.
As you might be noticing, the government, or especially here in Europe, the EU, is not very friendly towards the conservatism. It subsidizes not only big companies, which by the way creates monopolies and distortion on the market, but a lot of progressive projects from taxes as well. As conservative, that must piss you off. But it should also piss you off that your own government can do that in the first place. That really sucks. What is the solution? The solution is limiting the government, since even authoritarian conservative regimes such as Poland or Hungary are not that good alternatives, since yes, they are conservative, but they limit the civic liberties of their citizens more and more. So the limited government is the only viable option in my opinion. You might be asking, why would I limit the government size? The solution is simple. The less government means that there is less ways for it to control the life. You won't have any gender quotas, feminists in the government telling you what to do. Also, that means no lobbying, since the government will be so small to provide only the essential stuff. It will be very hard to lobby, or at least not make it noticeable. So, with that out of the way, what kind of classical liberal, or as the Americans say, the libertarian system of government could be in our country? In this video, I will present you 3 ways that I think could appeal to some of you. This solution is aimed at Christian Democrat or any kind of more paternalistic conservatives, which are usually fans of the social market economy, or think that simply getting the right person into the position of power will solve the problem, since they believe you need the big government to help the people. I think that there is much better alternative based on the economic theories of Georgism. I made a video on Georgism, which is in the description by the way, a while ago, and while I'm not personally a Georgist, I think those concepts are pretty neat and are great especially for welfare advocates. Why? Since Georgism does not have any tax that punishes poor, you will have much less poor people. It also creates a lot of wealth for the welfare and in the end far more fair society. And the single land value tax, that is the main feature of our Georgism, could also help the farmers, so the state would not have to subsidize them, since the land for the agriculture is not nearly as pricey as the land in the city. The administration for welfare could also get more simple. For every Joe, it could simply be boiled down to the UBI and some sort of universal health insurance. The people that are not average Joes, meaning the elderly, the disabled and such, would still receive the governmental assistance. The UBI could replace most form of welfare and minimum wage, because the UBI does the same and more efficiently. Also, the Georgism could finance the school vouchers, which is basically the only way to privatize the school system and still have it accessible for the public. Why private education for all? Because now the government will have harder time influencing the stuff that kids will learn in the school, and in the end make pushing progressive agenda harder. By implementing the Georgie system and features that I presented, the size of government could shrink noticeably while still having money to have for some social safety nets in the end. Maybe even throw some carbon taxes while there, combined with Milton Friedman's monetary policies, and boom, you have much better version of paternalistic conservatism that could be the right-wing answer to the populist left. And yeah, also do not forget to privatize state-owned companies, but that is for a video later. Now, let's take it a little bit extreme. Let's say you are like me or Ron Paul and want the private charities and church charities do all the welfare including education and healthcare, just like they did it in the medieval times, now with better technology and such, and want to limit the state to basically just enforce natural rights like life, liberty, property and pursuit of happiness. Well then, the minarchism is for you. Now, not all minarchists are created equal. Some want state to provide the basic infrastructure such as roads, railroads and also national currency, while some, like myself, think that free market will do that better. Some are for the land value tax mentioned in the option 1, while others, like me again, are for sales tax as a single tax solution. But let's get it out of the way. So now, why might conservatives could consider the Minarchism, because people will rely less on the state and more on the traditionally conservative structures like church and family. And also, like I said before, and it is more important here, it would be really hard to lobby for any sort of progressive regulations of society, since the state would be super limited to only really the basic functions like courts, police, firemen, ambulances and military. Also, since no corporation could lobby for regulations and such, it would be great for small and medium-sized businesses, since it would be much easier for them to get into market that will now be more fair to everyone, since it would not be governed by the regulations that make entering the said market much more difficult. You might be even more radical than that and think that minimalist state is garbage and take it further to no state, which is the option number 3. This is it. This is the final stage, which some Ancaps claim to be the logical conclusion of classical liberalism / libertarianism. Why? Because they believe that government is just a thief that wishes to take the fruits of their labor. So they assume that the best solution is no government and believe that private system could be much better alternative even for the law. Now, how that could be fine with conservatism? Simple. The conservatives would simply create voluntary communities that would be just for them, and you would live there the conservative way. They could still trade with the outside world. They would simply be more into making the community for people who want to live conservative way. Now, as most minarchists, I have a little bias, since I think this would simply create a minimalist state sooner or later, which I think is the best option for the conservatism. The problem with that is that it would no longer be anarchist in any way. Despite that, I still like some anarcho-capitalist thinkers such as Murray Rothbard, Walter Block, or Hans Hermann Hoppe, the creator of Hoppeanism, the conservative variant of anarcho-capitalism. I also agree with a lot of their points. I just do not think that their conclusion is the right one. So yeah, those are some options to consider in order to minimize the government, to maximize not only the liberty of the individual, but the traditional values as well. Like Ron Paul said, the true patriot is motivated by a sense of responsibility and out of self-interest for himself, his family and the future of his country to resist government abuse of power. He rejects the notion that patriotism means obedience to the state.